welcome back to another episode of Author Interviews with the Jazz and Prose. I am your host, Sai, and today we are here with the beautiful Blaque Diamond for her book, The Habitual Liar. How are you doing, Miss Blaque Diamond?
I'm fine. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm just excited.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I love this cover and I love the title. So I really want to kind of start there. Let's start with the title. Can you go into a little bit about that?
Well, I first want to say that there's no mistake in the way that it's spelled. Many
Okay.
people will say, oh, you made a mistake. There's an error. I said, no, there's no error in the way that it's spelled. I spelled it just the way that I meant it. And they would have to go deep into the book in order to understand why it's called with that terminology. But I believe everybody has a friend who, I'll say, stretch the truth a little bit more than others, and it's just a nonstop thing with them, so they can be considered this. But when you get into this character and maybe some other characters, you'll understand why why I labeled her the habitual liar, but it's more to her than what people may think.
Yes, and I can tell that with the cover as well. Now, a lot of times people say don't judge a book by its cover. Do you believe that? Do you believe that people judge books by the cover?
I believe people judge people by what they see without getting to know them. So I guess it would be the same with a book, that they can judge. And often people have read this book, they've judged this, and they say, I didn't see that coming. So they have been judging this book by its cover. Some people shy away from it because of the title. And I said, well, you're missing out on a good read.
Yeah. People play too much into. I love the title, and I laughed, and it was crazy that you said that everybody has that one friend, because I have a friend. I'm not saying there's a joke that she was called a habitual liar before, and if she sees, she's gonna laugh. But you hooked me with the title, so I kind of want to get into a little bit about you. Introducing yourself, just telling us about you as a writer, how you got started and everything.
Wow. Oh gosh, how I got started. It wasn't something that I planned. I had not planned on writing at all. That wasn't even something I was interested in school. When I graduated from high school, I wanted to go to Howard University to be an international judge, and that didn't happen. Life happened, but it wasn't the life that I had pictured. And I wrote my first book, which is called In My Mother's House, because a hit was put out on me, my husband, and my children, and I didn't think that I was going to survive. So I said, if I ever had any children that had children, which I would have become a grandmother, there's only one person that can tell them about me, and that would be me. People may know of me or know things about me, but I wanted my grandchildren to know who I was from me. And that's why I wrote the book. And it wasn't a book that I had planned on putting out there to sell. It was just something that I know I needed to have it published, but it was just for me to have, for them to be able to have something from me that I left specifically for them. But it took off, and it just became a little bit more than what I thought it would be. So some people say the writing bug, but I don't think that I have the writing bug. Mostly with the things that I write about, it's some type of experience that I have. So when I say I'm all over the place, I can write in any genre, but it depends on what's going on at that time.
Okay, so you're a true artist. You can. And then, so for this book, though, well, I guess we'll go into here, because you kind of talked about the inspiration, and you said that you write in all genres, so you kind of hit all the questions in one. Do you have anything else you want us to know about your introduction or your background?
Well, I've parented 14 children now.
Oh, wow.
And, but I am biologically the parent of 3.
Okay.
But I've been doing this since I was 17 in high school, and many ask, how did you become custody and guardianship of a child when you're only 17? Well, you go into court and the judge asks you questions. They ask you everything under the sun, but the only question he did not ask me was how old I was. So without that
Mm,
question, I was able to walk out of there with custody and guardianship of my niece. And I did not want her to go into the system. I could help in any way. So I see at
yeah,
this point, I didn't perjure myself because you didn't ask me any questions about my age. And I was
yeah,
able to do it. And I look at it, I was 17 years old, and I was able to do the best that I could at that time for a child who wasn't mine and a child who I felt as though should not go into the foster care system. And it just took off from there where I was taking care of relatives' children. It goes a little bit deeper than that on why I wanted to actually take care of children, but you'll probably, if anybody reads In My Mother's House, you'll see a little bit more of my backstory there.
yeah. That's amazing. Well, I applaud you. As I have 5 kids myself, and I'm a teacher, so I teach 130 kids. So I know it takes a big heart to be able to do that. So thank you for that. We need people that
It
will
led
do
me
stuff.
into,
Mhm.
again, I said I wanted to be an international judge, but I wound up being a social worker. So
Mm, okay,
it
that
changed the
makes sense.
path.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, let's get into the book specific questions. So tell us, because I'm very curious now about the habitual liar. Tell us about that.
Well, the habitual liar took a little bit more than 5 years to write. And again, it's
Okay.
always something that happens around me, maybe happened to me or happened to somebody I know. And I could be sitting in my car at at a red light and I can hear somebody saying something, or I could be in a room and I can hear somebody saying something, and automatically I'm putting a story together. So it just comes to me, I guess naturally for something to have happened. Sometimes it's things that has happened in my life or maybe somebody I know. But
Hmm.
the habitual lie is a mixture of people who have been through some personal journeys, and I made it one character. And when I looked at my character, I said, this is one person that has been through a lot. And
Hmm.
she has stretched the truth a lot. So I just ran with it. And each
Yeah.
chapter became a little bit more. But to get into this character, I had to, in some way, become part of this character. But it came so dangerous for me, I would say, that I had to seek therapy because I almost lost myself within this
Wow.
character. And it became very scary because I was becoming too close to who this character was. So I had to pull myself out. And that's why it took me so many years to write it, because I had to make sure that I was okay in each chapter that I wrote. So it was that serious. And I say this book, it means so much to me that people couldn't even tell why I wrote this book. They would say, "Oh, you just want to write because you wanted to write. You just wanted that title because you wanted the title." No, because I tried to understand this type of character, and in trying to understand her, I had to um, experience some of the things that she had experienced, and do a lot of research as well. But therapy was one of the things that I did, and what I continue to do. So
Yeah.
this character has left me needing therapy. And I appreciate it because it keeps me grounded in everything
Mhm.
that I do. So the continuation of the habitual liar going forward with any other books or projects, therapy will be there to keep me grounded. So I'm not ashamed to tell anybody I have a psychiatrist and I have a therapist. And anxiety came through many times with this character. I felt my heart beating because I felt I was getting too close to who she is. So I had to pull back, and that it set me off for a period of time where I really needed to seek therapy for that.
Yeah. Wow. That's relatable. Being a writer, I had a book that I've been working on for about 10 years, and it started from a place, and I'm not in that place anymore. So it's very hard for me to get back because I have to be in, like, when I write, I'm in that world. I'm with those people. So I totally understand that. And I'm glad that you're able to admit that, you're not ashamed to say you have therapy. I have therapy. I know in the African American community, it is something that's, I think now people are a little more okay with it, but it's something that took a while for people to say, I need help. and to know that it's okay to do that. So I think that's very interesting, because now I want to see this lady, the main character, like what was happening for it to become so, to a point where you know, kind of, you said, lost yourself a little bit. So now I want to know what's going on in this story. So, but when you did this, did you have, when you wrote this book, I'm sorry, the inspiration, did something, I know you said people said you just wrote it because you wanted to write it, but like, was there like a aha moment, like, I'm going to write this book?
It was more than an aha moment. It was
Mhm.
experiences that individuals were going through. There's a
Mm,
lot of trauma. There's a lot of resilience that's in this book, and
mhm,
it touched home a lot. And it was some of the people that I knew, some people that I heard about, and I just wanted them to know that they weren't alone. And I figured that writing this book and being able to understand them in a way that some people just don't understand. Like you mentioned, people don't seek therapy. This book is not wasn't intended to be therapeutic, but I'm finding out from some people that it's helping them.
of
And
course.
it's leading us into something much bigger than what I even thought about. My publicist,
Mhm,
Dr. C, we sat and we spoke and we decided to take this to another level. So now we're doing workshops, and it's
mm,
called Cracks in the Surface, Strengths in the Core, Not Easily Broken, because you're not easily broken. So we're
wow.
running a 6-month program, and each person, they receive the panel. I have a panel that sits on my podcast, Basic Black After Dark, and they already received a gift in the mail. They either can open it or they can leave it closed until we
Mhm,
start. We begin April the 18th, and they're going to sit on the panel and they're getting workbooks, and they have to do the work. Many of them
mm,
I've already interviewed on my podcast, and during the interview with them, I asked if they would participate in this special project for me, and they all agreed, and I was so appreciative of them. So it's going to be interesting to watch them go through this journey while we're going through it as well with them. So
mhm,
that was the inspiration behind the book, just letting people know that you're not alone and that we hear you. You know, whether it's somebody that you're close to, because a lot of times family and friends don't hear you, they shrug it off, or they say that's just you being you. Well, we want you to know that's not just you being you, and to let them know that you are enough. You are enough for me to have noticed that there's something. So that was the inspiration behind it for me.
absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's so needed. I mean, there's usually, when you say that, people say, well, that's just you being you, but something led up to that. And I think a lot of people, whether it's due to just, you know, a lot of people are in survival mode, I feel like, and they don't take the time, they don't have the bandwidth to emotionally sit there, you know, and start breaking stuff down, because they got to find out how we going to put food on the table, how we going to do this, and just, it's a lot. Life be life. So I think
Right.
having a book like this and being able, so many people were able to relate to it, to say, you know, I can relate to this, and now you have a whole panel, is amazing. And I think that's the beauty of the time. It's a double-edged sword with the internet nowadays, but I think that's the beauty of the internet, is being able to connect with so many people and reach new audiences, to be able to say, I see myself or can relate to the stuff in there. Well, did you have a part that was really challenging for you when you were writing it?
Yeah, the whole I think the whole part was challenging because I didn't know how well it would be received, because for me it was touching close to home and talking about mental health to a sense. And when you talk about mental health, I am not a psychiatrist or a therapist. I am a life coach, and I can refer you to places, but I'm hoping that through this book, for those who feel as though that this is them, that they would seek the help that they would need, and that it's okay. So I just wanted to make sure that, and this is where the research came in, that anything that I spoke about, I was able to back it up. Again, I had Dr. C, Dr. Carolyn Steffen. She's from Atlanta. She is a wonderful therapist who worked along with me and making sure that everything was in place, along with the therapist and the psychiatrist that I see. It was just so well put together, the questions, to make sure that I was reaching the people the way that I can reach them without them needing more therapy from just reading this book. Just letting them know that this book was written for you. You know, I may not know what you are going through, but maybe there's something in here that can pull you up to say, you know what, I'm going to seek therapy, or that it's okay for me to give myself permission to go through this journey. And this is the reason why. And I just thought that that would probably be a challenge, because I had to go through it myself. And what I did was I had to parent myself in order to go through this, along with the therapy, because it's a journey.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely. Well, I'm glad you pushed through to publish it and get it out there. Do you have a favorite part of the book? Like a
Oh
certain
yeah.
chapter you like? Okay,
Yeah,
what's that?
my
Well, don't
favorite
I don't want
chapter,
to spoil it, but
my favorite chapter, believe it or not, is the last chapter. It
okay.
is the last chapter, and I'm so in love with the last chapter, and I'm so excited. I scared myself in doing it, because I was surprised that I came up with what I came up with. In
Hmm.
writing this entire book, in the beginning, I maybe the first or the second chapter, I gave it to my daughters to look at, and they said, "Mom, I can't believe you're writing this book, this type of book, when you've written nothing but children's books." And I said, "I don't know. Something came across me, and something happened, and I had to write this book." And they were
Yeah.
saying the language. I said, "Well, look, I'm going to be transparent with it, because
Hmm.
these are the things that people are going through, and these are the things that are being said, and these are the things that are happening. So I'm not going to
Yeah.
beat around the bush, because I don't want to give the person or people or persons the wrong message."
Yeah.
So it's exactly what it is, and that's where the research came in, just to make sure that I had it down the right way.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that because now I gotta see that last chapter. I mean, because you were lit up. You say, "Yeah, I love the last chapter." Um, your characters. I know you said they were inspired by different people, and you did say that you. Can you speak about the research? So you say you do some research sometimes when you're developing those characters. So, like, what kind of stuff are you looking at?
Um, for a particular chapter, if I had to be in a certain environment, I would put myself in that environment. And
Mhm.
this is where therapy came in at. Um, uh, to speak to people, to see some of the things that they may have been going through, to do a lot of reading, to put myself back through school, and to do it that way. You know, when you go to school for social work, you learn certain things, maybe child welfare, that's what we learned. But this was a little different. This was more on the mental health part. So to know some homeless people, to know some people who, without giving it away, some people who lived certain lifestyles. I had to
Mhm.
come very close to those without putting myself at risk. So that's how some of these characters came about, but one stood out to me more than others. And I don't mind mentioning her name. This character's name is China. And she touched my heart, and I needed to continue to go through this journey with her. Although she took me to some places that I wouldn't normally go, but
Yeah.
that's where therapy came in at, that I was afraid
Mm.
of being in that place. I was afraid of being there for such a long time that I would lose myself. And sometimes people are in situations to where they're just gravitated into that, and they're sucked in. And I had to make
Yeah.
sure that I wasn't sucked in, because I didn't live a certain type of life prior to that. And I'm not saying that whether it's wrong or right, whether a person is living a certain type of life, but had I gone too far, I could have been too far. So
Yeah.
that's where a lot of my research came in at.
Yeah. And I think that's very powerful. I don't know if everybody, I can relate to that. I don't know if everybody has that ability to, like, if they're writing or creating something, that they could merge worlds. But I think that's so powerful, because the beauty of that, though, is that you could the book, the mind is like a thing where if you believe it, if like you're really creating these situations that you think that this is real life. And is that what you're saying? I don't want to misunderstand. Is that what you're saying? Like you were
These some of
writing
the
to the
things are real life things that do happen, but it
okay,
wasn't based on a person's life. I know
okay,
that we know that we know that we have teacher strikes. So I
hmm
can just put something in there about a teacher strike, but it doesn't mean that I'm talking about you. I'm just talking
yeah,
generically, but it's real. Teacher strikes do happen. The things that
yeah,
happen in this book do happen, but it wasn't
mm,
based on a particular person. It was,
yeah,
if I can say based on a particular person, I would say it was me because I put myself in that situation. But I only put
yeah,
myself in that situation so I can understand the process
mm,
of why this person was going through that and what happens, and is there a way out, or is there a way that you want to continue? Is this going to be a lifestyle, or maybe it's not your lifestyle? Was you dragged into this lifestyle, or was it a lifestyle that you had become accustomed to from day one? So it was just so many different scenarios I had to experience in order to develop this character and see who I wanted this character to be from day one to day now. And I'm just so proud of this character, and
yeah.
to where I'm taking her. It's just unbelievable.
I love that. I love that. And they say, you know, art is an imitation of life. So I think that that's amazing. And we hear that happen a lot with actors when they get a certain role that they really do the research and study to become, or they, you know, if the person looks physically a certain way, they go gain the weight or lose the weight or whatever. So
Exactly.
as a writer, I think that that happens to some of us as well. Um, so writing and publishing, the journey. So did you have a process for you, you know, writing from idea to publishing? Did you have like a
For writing this book, and initially I knew what I wanted to write, and I had spoken to a friend, and I had told him that I didn't have a good experience with some of the prior books that I've written, and they took me years because the publishing company and I were going back and forth because they wanted my character to look from a different culture and race, and that's not who my character was based on. And it just took so long to the point that we did it and I was able to get it to my character, but it was a series of books, so it was kind of hard to get out of that. But I said, once I'm finished with the series, I will no longer go through that company. And when I co-authored a book with someone, they had was with a publishing company, and I was comfortable with them, and that brought me to publishing another book on my own. And that one was based on some wonderful things. It was basically based on a residence that my older siblings lived at, and I didn't live there. I wasn't born at the time, so they would tell me stories, and I said, "Boy, you guys had so much fun. I wish I was born in that time." So what I did was I took the address that they lived in and some of the stories, and I made it my own. But of course, I added foster care and adoption to it. So it became 1380 Prospect Avenue, not another Bronx tale. So it is based in the Bronx, and it's about males and females, teenage children in the foster care system and what happens. So it's not what people think that, oh, they're just not, they're hard to place because they're teenagers. No, it's the systems that's failing them, and it's not necessarily child welfare. There are other systems that are failing these children, and I want them to take that journey with it. And on top of it, we did a book trailer for it. We were supposed to do a full movie, but COVID hit, so we had to
yeah.
stop there. And it's just the trailer is just what's out and what's the book that's out. But for this book here, I I normally at the time I would go visit my dad. He lived in New York, and that was the place for me to write. It was his balcony that way I got everything from, and he's no longer with me. So it became very hard for me to write because it wasn't there. I think a lot of it was his presence, and his presence
Mhm.
was because he was believing in me, and giving me that time and just checking on me. And it just felt so warm and welcoming that he was able to do that. And I just had that space along with me getting to know him and him getting to know me. So that made me feel really good. So that was a part of the process. But I did fall short with this book here, The Habitual Liar. I went to a company that I thought was a reputable company that we all heard of. We all order our books from. We all did that, and everything was the same. The logos, the everything was the same. And I went with that company, and I
Yeah.
wind up being scammed. And they
No.
took all my money. They
My God.
did publish that book through that company that we all know that we use. But when other things started adding up or not adding up and the red flags started going all over the place, I found out that they were scammers. I did contact the company. They said they'd never heard of this person. I said, well, they're out there using your logo. And I sent them everything. They were shocked. They was really
Wow.
shocked at everything that they were seeing. And I did an episode on scammers. And
Mm,
I spoke to people about authors are being scammed because people are willing to do these things for them. And I just gave them some tips. I'm not an expert in it. I gave them some tips, but
yeah.
Dr. C, she has her own publishing company as well. She heard what I had to say, and she got me through The Habitual Liar. She helped me redo the book. We kept the
Yeah.
same title, we kept the same cover, but there were so many errors and mistakes in that book, and it was so short with pages that the way we was able to take the book, it added more to what needed to be added. And
Hmm.
I just told us we had the book up, which was the false book, and we pulled it down, but you wouldn't even have known that there was a change. We put it right back up because when I say she's a miracle worker, she worked that so fast that we were
Nice.
able to get it up without anybody even knowing that there was a change in it.
Yeah.
And it just became so much for it. And then out of that came the workbook. And she, again, that workbook is boom. It's there. It's already on it's on Amazon. She just posted it up there, and it should be available where I'm going to send it to the panelists. And I can't wait to get it in my hand to see that work because I never did a workbook. So
Yeah.
I'm really proud of that and so appreciative of her. So I said I actually have a publicist that I could say that I have, and I'm just
Yeah.
so proud of her.
That's good. And it does. I we did a webinar, I think it was last weekend. It was about women, writing and things like that. And we had an editor on there. And, one of the things, like, you need a team. Like, writing is one piece, but then there's so many other things that could come from this book. Like, now you have a whole panel, you have a workbook, because that idea can flourish into so many other things. So I think as an author, it's a beautiful thing of, creating something one time, and then how many other things can come from that is amazing. And then to speak back to, you said about the scamming, which is shocking because, oh my God, I'm sorry that happened to you. And I know that had to hurt because we put so much into putting these things out there, to know that people can be out there to, take advantage of people who are trying to, most of us are trying to make a difference. We have a message that we're trying to put out there. So I hope justice was served with that.
It
And that's
was. It really
okay.
was. I kept receipts. I went to the police. I went to the bank, and I had proof from the real company that who they said they were, letters and emails stating that I did speak to them about it. I did give them the person's information. They did acknowledge that this person does not work for their company. So I was able to take that to the bank and the police department and let them see that they were scammers. And
Yeah.
I was able to get my money back.
Well,
I was able to
good.
get my money back,
Mhm.
and it just made all the difference in the world. But what I see
Yeah.
is that they've changed the person that I was working with, and now they have somebody else saying, "Oh, he no longer works with us, and I'm
Mm,
taking over." So my thing to him is, I put money out to him. I want my money back. The
Yeah,
bank
yeah,
gave
yeah.
me my money back. Yes. FDIC.
Good.
Yes, they saw to it. But you still have that money and it doesn't belong to you. You know, they promised that I would be on the billboard in at Times Square. I
Mm,
would be on USA Today, and everything was lining up. Then they gave me some information that Times Square did not want my title up on their billboard because of the word. And I said, and
mhm.
the way I can get that, and they said, well, can we blank out, the ITCH? I said, no, we're not going to do
Yeah,
that because that's exactly what I want up there. I said, there's other choice words that goes along with Times Square, but I
yeah,
said, I get who they are, they're Times Square. And if they don't want my type of work up there, I respect that. And I, we was going to move on. And then he came up with USA Today, which didn't happen. So I'm looking at more programs like some HBCUs, some psychology departments, some social work departments, Barnes and Nobles, things like that, mental health, because this is where this book is basically about, and I
yeah,
want to tap into that.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you got your justice served. One thing I learned is perseverance. Eventually, you'll get what you're looking for as long as you keep going.
I have a
Um,
wonderful team now, and
but
she has a wonderful team, and I'm comfortable with where I'm at right now, and it's just it took a lot off of me to know that I had somebody that just picked up some stuff and spoke to me and said that, look, I can take you here and there. At a time when I at that point didn't trust, but it was just something in her words. And I was careful
mhm.
at this point, and I'm happy that I did it.
Yeah. And I think that's a good reminder for people to keep an eye out. Everybody is not a good person and we do have scammers that exist. So especially with something so dear to us that we're it's coming from us that we want to treat it like a baby and be cautious. So that's a great reminder. Okay, let's go to this slide where it says advice for aspiring authors. So, do you have any words of wisdom for people who may want to start a book? They don't know how to start. They might not think that they have anything worthy to say.
Uh, Several people come to me and say, "Oh, I want to write a book,"
Mhm,
and I'm not an expert in it. And I always tell people, I'm not even an author. I'm a writer. I'm not an author. I would say that you are a writer when you are Maya Angelou. You're an author when you're Maya Angelou. I'm not nowhere near that status. Nikki Giovanni, people like that. They're authors. I'm not. I'm a writer, and I probably will be one for a while because I don't think I have that status. But if they want to write, I would just say just write it down. Stop pushing it in the back of the drawer. I pushed mine back there several times and I looked at it. And if you need a break in between, take that break. I don't really look at it as writer's block. I feel
mhm.
as though you need a break because there's other ideas that may be clouding you that you haven't figured out where you want to put it at. So I say just write it all down. And if you have to write this idea on that paper and that idea on this paper and another one on another piece of paper, do that. Because what may come out of that, since you've written three different ideas on three different pieces of paper, you can expand on each one of those ideas. And now you have three different chapters. So I just say that's the way that I would go about it. Um, get in touch with some writers guilds, go online, Facebook, see other authors that have been writing for a while, contact them, see if maybe they're publishing companies, and start there. And if you
Yeah,
can reach one person with one of your books, then it's successful. I say if you just got that one book and it's sold, then you've done what you planned on doing.
yeah. And yeah, those are good words of wisdom. All of that, what you said, the Writers Guild and starting with, writing something on one paper, and then you have three chapters. And I respect your thought about, you say you're not an author yet. I definitely think you're an author. Um, you know, they had to start somewhere too. I, like you said, I think even if it reaches one person, you never know. And I'm an avid reader and I'm like addicted to information because I really feel like it's just one thing, that one spark that could change the trajectory of my life forever. So I think that, you published your book, you're an author, Miss Blaque Diamond. Okay. So,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think it's time for us to go into the trivia question, which I'm very curious to see what you're going to pick here. Okay, so this is trivia time, and it's basically going to be a would you rather, like author's edition.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna have you pick a number.
I'll take number 3.
3. Okay. Pause the sound. And then we'll go here. 2, 3. Okay. Okay. So would you rather only write at 3 a.m. or write with a typewriter?
3 a.m. I guess you're saying is the time.
Yes. 3 a.m. Like that's the only time you would be able to write, like that, I guess, like an
3
hour. Like
a.m.
wait.
I would rather
3
write
a.m.
at 3 a.m. Yeah.
Okay. And why not the typewriter? Somebody else had this question too, and they picked 3 a.m.
The typewriter is good, but I'm old school. I like pen and paper because
Mm,
I like to see my work. I know a typewriter is good. I plan on purchasing a nostalgic typewriter just to have it because I see writers
yeah.
do, and that's where they started with. But 3
Mhm.
a.m. is where most of my ideas come from. Typewriters, you hit the wrong key, you make a mistake. Me writing, I have a pencil, and pencils have erasers, so I can erase it. I'm not going to use no whiteout because that's one thing that
Yeah,
I was taught. You don't use whiteout, you don't cross it out. But with a pencil, you never knew that there was a mistake there. So 3 a.m. is a good time for me.
okay, nice. And the other person who said this, they picked the 3 a.m. too. And then with the typewriter, now this is, I'm sorry, they picked that, but this is leading into what I was about to say. Do you do voice dictating? Like when you write, some people use the voice tool and they'll just talk out their chapters and the computer will type the words for them. Have you ever done that?
When I wrote my first book, I didn't know anything about writing, and I thought that's the way it was supposed to be done, and I didn't want to forget what I had
Yeah.
written. And after that book was written, when I got into the children's books, because I
Mhm.
knew the story and I knew where I was going, and of course I'm a social worker, and those books are more so based on things that I actually know. I didn't have to do much research. I didn't have to use that, and now I don't use it at all. It just comes to me, whatever I want. Because I'm sitting here right now talking to you, and just by looking
Mhm.
at the pink behind you, I'm coming up with another story, and I can remember it. I can remember it. So I'm just looking at it. Will I
Yeah,
use this in The Habitual Liar or will I
yeah,
not? So it
yeah,
just, and I'll remember that pink behind you and I'll remember exactly the way your room is set up. Will I use
yeah,
that? Will I add something to it? Will I add a chair to it? Will what will be in
yeah,
there? So
yeah.
I just take it for whatever I can get.
Yeah, we are inspired as writers. I feel like we're inspired by anything, really. I mean, literally anything. Well, we're on our last slide. So, what's next for you? Is The Habitual Liar, is it a series?
I was hoping you didn't ask me that, but I'm going to
Well,
answer it. The
okay,
Habitual Liar, book 1, this book.
okay,
I'm already on book 3, reading book
okay,
3.
okay,
Some may ask, what about book 2? Book, I'll say, thing 2 is going to be quite different.
okay.
And I love doing different things, being very creative. And I've already started on that project. And I've shown it to maybe 2 people, and they just
Mhm.
shook their head. They said that you're unbelievable. And I said, I just want to reach people in different ways with what I do. And with
Yeah,
thing 2, it's a must. It has to be done this way in order
yeah,
for me to go to book 3. So there's a book 1, there's a thing 2, but there's also a book 3. So I won't tell what the thing 2 is until the
Okay.
thing 2 happens. So I'm
Okay.
very excited about that. And again, cracks in the surface, strengths in the core, not easily broken. I'm working on that. Some have wanted me to continue with 1380 Prospect Avenue and
Mm-hmm.
also with the first book, In My Mother's House. And I said that when I write part 2 to In My Mother's House, that's the last book I'm writing, because that my chapter will be closed and
Mm-hmm.
everything else will be done, and it's open there and my chapter will be closed. And I just want to do more speaking engagements, conferences. A friend of mine want to do a retreat, and there's something I definitely want to do. I
Yeah.
have something I've been writing. Oh gosh, it's been over 10 years. It's a television show, and
Mm.
we're hoping to have it up on her network. This is with Dr. C. She's amazing. I'm telling you. We're hoping to have
Wow.
it up on her network, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning what her network is. But you know what, I'm not going to, because I didn't get permission. So
Okay.
her network, I'm definitely going to put it on her network. It's been in the works for me for 10 years. I'm going to set it up as a pilot program. The
Okay.
characters are already there. Everything is set. It's just for me to put it there. We're going to run it for a month to see if people like it, and if they do, and it's well received, then we'll do the first season. But I'm so excited about it. I just said, wow, it's actually going to happen. And I've been working on it for a while, but I just kept putting it on the side. But I'm ready now.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Timing is important. Well, that's amazing. I'm definitely looking forward. I'm so glad that we got, in touch. I know about The Habitual Liar. I'm definitely going to go and read that. Where can everybody find your work, and then also like get in contact with you? Like, do you have socials?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm a beast on Facebook, but that's been my buddy.
Okay.
That has been my buddy. I'm under Author Blaque Diamond, and I know I said
Okay.
I'm not an author earlier, but there
Mhm.
is another beautiful woman who's also writing under the pseudonym of Blaque Diamond, and
Okay.
she's the writer Blaque Diamond. Us,
Mm.
and I'm not saying anything ill willed of her. It's just that Blaque Diamond is my real name. So
Okay.
I just, I'm okay with her. I can't stop
Yeah.
her from using her name. And
Yeah.
I've seen some of her books, and she's just a wonderful a person. I haven't met her yet. Hopefully someday we will cross paths. But
Mm-hmm.
you can find me on Facebook. My podcast comes on under The Crew, DACREW
Okay.
Podcast Network. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, um, what else? LinkedIn, but I'm not a person that stays on LinkedIn a lot for
Mm-hmm.
many things. That I think is more so business wise. I don't gear towards book, and my website is being reconstructed, but if you go in there,
Mm-hmm.
you'll still see things, and you'll find the trailer of
Yeah.
1380 Prospect Avenue. And one of the things
Nice.
I did not tell everybody about is that I make my own candles, and we have a
Oh, nice.
candle line that's coming out for the Habitual Liar. So I
Oh,
can't
wow.
wait for people. I can't wait for people to get that candle. It's a beautiful candle, and
Mhm.
I'm just so excited. We have some merchandise already. We have the keychains, we have the mugs, we have the tumblers, we have the mouse pads, and we're working
Everything.
now on the t-shirts. So we're going full forward with that. And cracks in the surface, strengths in the core, that is a part of this book, The Habitual Liar. So I don't want to say it's a spin-off, but
Yeah.
when you put the pieces together, you'll understand why we did cracks in the surface.
Okay.
That's coming right behind the book.
Okay. I love that. This is a lot. This is a way, like you got the candles, keychains, books, webinars, seminars. I love that. I love that. So all of your links, guys, it will be in the description where you can find Author Blaque Diamond. And then do you have any final words of encouragement for fellow writers or just really anybody?
There's a woman who got me started, and then she asked me to be a podcaster, and I said I don't have anything to say. I don't think anybody want to listen to what I have to say. And believe it or not, I'm not saying I'm shy. I'm not. I'm one that grew up that you don't speak unless you're spoken to. So I usually sit and I wait, and especially if it's a subject that I'm not interested in, I'm not gonna engage in it. But if
Yeah.
it's a subject that I'm interested in and I know about it, you might have a problem with keeping me quiet because I feel strong about what I'm going to say, and I don't knock what anybody else is going to say. But this young lady, she is the queen of collaborations, and her name is Angela Thomas Smith. And what I would say for final words is to collaborate, network.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel as though you have to keep things to yourself. There is a plethora of
Yeah.
authors out there. And one of the things I always say is that this is not the record business. We do share, we do collaborate. And I know some authors and some um, people in the record business, they collaborate, but it's different. I find it to be a little different when you're an author and we're at events and we're actually walking over to each other, supporting each other, and trying to collaborate with each other and purchasing each other's books and sending other people to other people's tables. So it's just amazing. Or here, if you want to know more about this person's book, here's her information, here's her contact information or his contact information. And I've collaborated with some giants, I say, and I'm just so proud of them. And I appreciate the fact that they had wanted me and accepted me to be a person that collaborates with them.
Yeah, and we are proud of you, Author Blaque Diamond. You sound like you have a wealth of knowledge, gems. You've experienced a lot, and you sound like you're very, I don't know if it's optimistic, but like you are willing to, build upon, just like you didn't stop with just the book. Because a lot of authors, they write the book and then they just go to the next book and they don't see how they can scale that. So I think that's amazing. And I think a lot of people will be inspired by seeing what you're doing so that
Well,
they
those are one
can.
of the things that we're going to be doing at the workshop. We're going to be looking for people to do breakout rooms. Most of it is geared around mental health, about the subject. There's probably going to be a few who, because we will have authors there, and some of the authors have written about mental health. And there's always the question, I want to write a book on this, I want to write a book on that. So I will have a breakout room for individuals who want to know more about getting into writing and things like that. But I don't want to go so far away from what the conference is about because it's always somebody sitting there saying, I was inspired by that person sitting on the stage and I have a book in me. So I don't want
Yeah.
to ignore the fact that there's somebody that may have a story. So we will have that breakout room, and we'll announce when we're doing the conference. But I think we're working on doing the retreat first, which is going to bring out a lot of this as well in the conference. So
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's definitely inspiring. Literally, the interview I just did was with Sharon Jones, and her book was more so like spirituality and mental health. So coming from that one to how yours is fiction, but it still, touches on that is amazing. Well, we definitely thank you here at Jazz and Prose for stopping by, chatting with us about The Habitual Liar. Okay, love the title. I can't wait to go and read it. And then on your socials, after I read it, I definitely will reach out so that we can discuss, some of the things that we talked about. I'll go back and watch this interview and be like, oh, this is what she was talking about. So yeah,
okay.
well,
I would love
absolutely.
to
Well,
come back.
absolutely, definitely. And then you said your podcast name is The Crew. Once again, I'll have all
No,
of that in.
the network is under the Crew Network.
Okay.
I'm under her,
Okay.
but my podcast is called Basic Black, spelled like my name, Basic Black
Okay.
After Dark. And it's the first and
Okay.
third Fridays of the month. But now this year, we've just added the panel. So they're going to be on the third Fridays of every month for the next 6 months. but my regular interviews is the first Friday of the month.
Okay, nice. Well, definitely. I'm definitely interested in checking that out. So thank you for stopping by The Habitual Liar. It's available, guys. Go check it out. And we will see you next time. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.